All right, let's get right into something that might just change how you think about, well, thinking. We're looking at a groundbreaking idea called the cognitive channel. And what it does is take information theory, the stuff that runs our digital world, and apply it to our own minds. The core idea? Your conscious attention isn't this infinite magical thing. Nope. It's a communication channel with a hard physical speed limit.
So, what is that speed limit? Get ready for this. Your senses right now are taking in a flood of data. We're talking about a billion bits every single second. But your conscious mind, the part of you that's actually listening and processing this, can only handle about 10 bits per second. That's right, 10. That means your brain is performing a compression job of 100 million to 1, turning a fire hose of reality into a tiny, manageable trickle.
And here's the kicker. This isn't just some cool metaphor. The whole point of this thesis is that this is a measurable, physical constraint. Every single thought you have on purpose, every creative idea, every decision, it all has to get squeezed through this incredibly narrow 10-bit pipeline. And once you understand that, it changes everything about how you approach focus, work, and creativity. So let's dig into what this cognitive bottleneck really means for how we deal with focus and, its mortal enemy, distraction. To really get it, we can actually map the classic communication model from Claude Shannon right onto our brains. Think of it this way. The source is your goal, your intent, what you want to think about. The transmitter is your focus, the mechanism that sends that signal. And the channel, well, that's your conscious processing itself, that tiny 10-bit pipe we're talking about.
And this is where the real problem of interruptions comes into play. That little notification that pops up or the, hey, got a quick question? It isn't just an annoyance. It's literally a hijacker. It physically takes over your entire channel. And when your bandwidth is hijacked, your ability to process your own thoughts drops to zero. Flatline.
Okay, so if we all have this same tiny channel, why do our experiences of the world feel so radically different? This leads to one of the most powerful analogies for understanding neurodiversity I've ever come across: the JPEG brain versus the raw brain. Think about it like a camera sensor. A neurotypical brain is a lot like a JPEG. It's super efficient, it sees a blue wall, and the file it saves is basically blue wall. It throws away all the tiny shadows and texture variations to save space and get the gist of it. It's fast, but a neurodivergent brain is more like a raw file from a professional camera. It captures everything, every single bit of data. The result is this incredibly rich, high-fidelity picture of reality, but it's a massive file that takes way more processing power to handle. This quote just nails it. For the raw brain, there isn't really a difference between signal and noise. It's all signal. The hum from the refrigerator, the tag scratching your neck, the flicker of the lights overhead, all of that is data being actively processed all the time. It's like having a supercomputer running in the background, analyzing every single frame of reality. So, what do you do with all that high-fidelity raw data? Well, it often leads to a state called monotropism. It's a way of focusing where, instead of spreading your attention around, your brain pulls all of its resources into one single, incredibly deep attention tunnel. This is hyperfocus. It's a state where the sense of self can just dissolve into whatever you're working on. I mean, you can't exactly multitask a laser beam, right? This brings us to a really powerful shift in thinking. What if we stop looking at conditions like ADHD and autism as disorders and start seeing them as just different hardware? Different channel architectures, each with its own set of specs, its own strengths, and its own engineering challenges. So, in engineering, every channel has something called a noise floor. It's the baseline level of static. For you to hear a signal clearly, it has to be way louder than that static. A typical brain has this amazing sensory gating system that's constantly filtering things out. It creates a very, very low noise floor by just deleting data it decides is irrelevant. But for many neurodivergent individuals, that filter is, well, it's leaky. It's more like a sieve than a wall. So that hum from the fridge isn't just background noise that gets filtered out. It's a competing signal. It's actively fighting for your attention, raising the overall noise floor, and making it a constant battle to pick out the one signal you're trying to focus on. And this high noise floor has a very real, measurable cost. Let's look at a simple context switch, like glancing at an email and trying to get back to what you were doing. For a neurotypical brain, that might cost about 3 bits of processing power. But for an ADHD channel architecture, that same exact switch costs 7.5 bits. That's more than double the cost, a 2.5 times higher neurodivergent tax on every single little interruption. So when we put it all together, we can see autism and ADHD as two distinct architectures. You could view autism as having this incredible enhanced pattern recognition system. It's taking all that raw data and processing it to find deep underlying structures, like a supercharged compression algorithm. This is a massive strength in fields built on logic and patterns, but it can make the chaotic, unpredictable nature of social stuff really costly. ADHD, on the other hand, can be seen as a system that's constantly managing a higher noise floor, always working a little harder to boost that signal-to-noise ratio. And here's the logical conclusion. If you're running a high-bandwidth sensory system through a low-bandwidth conscious channel, just trying harder is never going to work. You have to stop being a user and start being an engineer of your own cognitive environment. You have to protect your bandwidth. To do that, we have to talk about entropy. It's really just a fancy word for surprise or unpredictability. And our brains are basically prediction machines that absolutely hate surprises. This is why things like routines are so calming. And it's also why stimming behaviors, like rocking or tapping, can be so incredibly helpful. It's a way of creating your own predictable low-entropy signal to drown out the chaotic, high-entropy noise of the outside world. Now let's talk about the ultimate entropy bomb, the absolute worst-case scenario, the interruption. Imagine you're in that perfect state of deep focus, what we call flow. And then someone leans in and says these 5 little words. That 30-second interruption, it cost you a straight 300 bits of channel capacity. 30 seconds of your conscious thought, just gone. Poof. But honestly, that is nothing. That's not the real cost. Not even close. The real cost is the total collapse of the flow state itself. See, when you're in flow, your brain quiets all its self-monitoring chatter, and your channel capacity can actually increase by up to 10 times. An interruption doesn't just pause this state, it completely shatters it. And the cost to get back is staggering. Research shows it can take anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes to re-enter a state of deep focus. This model calculates the cost of that lost potential, all that foregone processing, at an absolutely massive 132,000 bits. So that quick question didn't cost you 300 bits. It cost you over 132,000 bits of your most valuable, high-quality thinking. So how do you fight back? Well, the source calls it the Flow Fortress Protocol. It's about making deliberate engineering choices to eliminate noise. Turning off your notifications can save you over 5,000 bits a day. Hiding clocks stops your brain from constantly checking it on schedules, saving another 8,000. Even simple things like removing mirrors can save an estimated 15,000 bits a day by short-circuiting all those self-critical thought loops. This isn't about productivity hacks. It's about cognitive engineering.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that your attention, your focus, is not some infinite wellspring of magic. It is a physical channel. It has a hard limit. And understanding that simple fact changes everything. It changes how we think about productivity, how we judge distraction, and, maybe most importantly, how we can start to see neurodiversity not as a bug, but as a feature of a different kind of operating system. Your mind is a finite channel. It's precious. The real question is, how will you protect it?